What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Top Lines and Brow Tines podcast. We're glad to have you here with us. On our previous episode, Ben checks in to see kind of what the feedback was from our wives on the episode 3. We talk about the partnership between Texas Parks and Wildlife and the Toyota Share Linker program and what that's doing for the sport of bass fishing across the state. And a new segment called The Cutting Edge is introduced. So if you guys haven't seen that episode, head over to our YouTube channel and check that out.
All right, it's no dispute that the introduction of forward-facing sonar has changed the game in the fishing industry. The dispute is whether there is a positive or negative change. Let's take a few minutes and give our opinions on the subject, and we'll attack it from 3 different questions. First question we're going to answer is, does the use of forward-facing sonar take away from the entertainment value of the sport? Which some say it do, some say it doesn't.
Some say it do.
Some say it do. Some say it does. Some say it do.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
Either it do or it don't.
so you got 3 talking points. We're going to do one at a time.
Yeah, let's just do that first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Cutter, do you think it takes away from the entertainment value of the sport?
It does not take away from the entertainment value. It may make it better. So you have forward-facing sonar. So you look out there and you see a big fish. Hey, I want to try and catch that one. I mean, that's where you're by yourself, taking kids fishing, whatever. Hey, let's try and catch that big fish. Everybody wants to catch a big
That's
fish.
exactly
Yeah.
right.
You know, as far as the entertainment, it probably makes it better. As far as the entertainment, in my opinion.
Ben?
Well, does it take away from the entertainment value for personally? I think it probably doesn't. Does it take away from it from a viewer standpoint? I think it does.
Like watching it on TV?
I watch it on TV. I do. I watch Bassmaster Live when the season's going, and the first 4 or 5 tournaments of the season, in my opinion, are better to watch. I like watching the frog bite, the jig in the grass. Watching somebody sitting there, up there on Lake Erie like this for 8 hours, it's just that entertaining to me. Watching the screen, that's just my opinion.
But televised fishing is a far cry from what actual fishing is. I mean, you go out there and you fish for hours and hours and hours with hopes of having that one good hookup, right?
Right.
And I think televised fishing has kind of run that because people think that fishing is just so easy as far as going out there, you put your line in the water and you catch a fish because that's what they see on TV.
Yeah. Well, the argument I would have with that, Ben, is there's not a whole lot of difference in this looking down and looking straight ahead. There's just not. And if the forward-facing sonar allows you to get that 1 extra fish, 2 extra fish, the entertainment value of the sport is the fish catch. It's catching the fish. That's why whenever you're watching Bassmaster Live, they pan to the guy that's catching a fish because that's the entertainment value of the sport. So I would say that it actually adds to the entertainment value of the sport because it's putting more fish catches on screen.
Well, we're looking at 2 different opinions, really, of the same topic. I'm talking about using forward-facing sonar personally, fishing. He's talking about watching somebody do it on TV.
Right. Well, that's what the entertainment value. That's why I said the entertainment value.
And I made that distinction before I said that.
Yeah.
I said that if you're fishing, I can see how it makes it more entertaining.
So
I enjoy fishing with you, and I don't have it. You do. I enjoy when we go out, deep fishing in the cold months, early February, late January, and doing the live scope. It adds fun to it, in my opinion. But I was just talking about that versus an entertainment from a fan.
Right.
Just looking at it from 2 different angles.
I think what John's saying is there are some people out there who have such a hard view against forward-facing sonar using it in the boat catching fish. There's just purists of the sport out there that think that it's running the sport because you almost know what's going to happen. You take a kid fishing, or think back to when you went fishing the first time, whether it was with your dad, with your grandpa, somebody took you on a guided trip, whatever it was. The entertainment wasn't waking up and getting a honey bun and a Coke before the sun came up. It wasn't doing 70 mile an hour across the water.
That's right.
It was catching a fish.
Right.
And when you get back to the boat ramp and you're telling a story and you recount that story in your older years, it was always catching the fish.
Right.
And it's not anything else that goes into a day of fishing except catching the fish. And the joy and the excitement on seeing somebody's face when they catch a first fish or a double digit or something like that, you can't put a price on that.
And when you talk about the entertainment value, whether that's you being entertained in the boat or watching it on TV, anything that helps put an extra fish or two in the boat is going to add to the entertainment of either fishing or watching it.
I agree.
In my opinion.
Yep. Well, when I think about childhood fishing, I was thinking about fishing with my grandpa and his best friend, and we had a leak in the boat, and we would have to bail water out of it, and you had to be real careful not to scoop up the empty old Milwaukee cans and dump them in the lake, so you had to scoop water around the floating beer cans.
Now that's entertainment.
That's the way I grew up fishing.
That's
That's
entertainment.
the way I grew up fishing. And between the two of them, they didn't have 50-50 eyesight, so you spend 30 minutes waiting on one of them to tie a hook on your line. I mean, my fishing hobby's been a joke since the day it started. let's just be honest.
All right, let's tackle the next one. Does it give the angler an unfair advantage over the fish?
Does it give the angler an
unfair advantage over the fish?
No, it doesn't, because if you were fishing shallow and they were all shallow and you were in crystal clear water and you were sight fishing, I mean, it's the same difference.
It's just sight fishing in
sight
deeper
fishing.
water.
No, I don't think it does. I mean,
Maybe.
I think if that was ever in jeopardy, especially here in the state, there would be some limit changes because of it, but I don't,
I feel like
and then there's not, so I don't see that.
Wildlife would step in if they saw a significant change as far as.
Well, the resource would have to be depleted, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for that to happen, and 90% of the time, I mean, unless you live in, Possum Grape, Arkansas, you're probably not catching 4-pounders to fry up. So, but
No offense, Uncle Keith.
That would be my stance on it. It's basically sight fishing. It's no different than, I mean, even when you're sight fishing in shallow water or trying to get a fish to bite on the bed, that fish don't want to bite. That fish is not going to bite. And so it's the same thing with live scope.
Yeah.
I mean, you can put it in front of their face. You can present it in 9 different ways. You can just sit there and hold it in front of them. They're not, if they don't want to bite it,
they're not
going to
bite it.
Yeah,
And
that's
it don't
exactly
matter
right.
how many colors you throw at them or what you do. So I don't feel like it gives an unfair advantage.
Yeah, I mean, you and I see it all the time crappie fishing.
Yeah.
You pull up to a spot, there's a brush pile there or a dock or a certain tree or something in the water, right? You can see crappie on the tree, on the structure. They're right there. You throw a bonehead jig down there to them, nothing. Was the jig too heavy? Was it the wrong color? Was it your retrieval method? You still got to figure out what the fish want.
right.
Just because you see them doesn't mean you can catch them.
That's
Yep.
right.
That's true.
Yep.
Well, you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Because you see them, and it's the same thing if the wrong color or whatever. But a lot of times, and I had this happen last year. I was found a lot of fish, and I couldn't give them the bite, and I got to looking, and there was thousands of minnows on that dock that I was fishing. So I changed my lure. I changed my jig from a stump bug to a brush glider and started catching fish.
Yeah.
So that has a lot to do with the fisherman than the camera. The camera,
right.
You have to, they're there, and you change colors. It doesn't work with something. Change the
You
profile.
still got to make them bite.
Change the profile.
Yeah.
So I changed my profile and started catching fish. That
Yeah,
day,
I
it
don't think it's fair to make the argument that using live scope is cheating, or because you still have to give them the bite, and that's fishing. I mean, you still got to try to give them the bite.
And I agree with Ben. I mean, the state may at some point have to step in and manipulate the limits in some fashion, because it is easier to catch fish, and especially it's easier to catch limits. But
no, in the world of bass fishing, you're shaking your head, but in the world of bass fishing, it is. That's the reason when you go to these big lakes, Sam Rayburn, for example, if you do not have a 30-pound bag, especially these team tournaments that go on down there, whether it be Bass Champs, Texas Team Trail, there's 2 or 3 others. 15 years ago, not saying that people didn't weigh in 20, 30-pound bags, they did, but it's every single tournament right now. So,
well, I think some of that has to do with how many more people are fishing now than 10 years ago. I mean, the tournaments, the sheer number of entries into tournaments and stuff is way up from where it was before. Yeah. And I think you've got to take that into account too. There's more people trying to get that 30-pound bag.
yeah, that's true.
That's true. But
So what's number 3, John?
Is forward-facing sonar pricing the blue-collar working man out of competitive fishing?
Well, if you're saying specific to blue collar work, and I mean, I don't know what salary range we're talking about, but let's be honest, it's not. I'm going to say it's not practical for most.
Well, some of the arguments I've heard is that there's people saying that they won't fish a tournament because if they allow electronics, they're not able to afford those electronics.
Yeah.
That's
well, and I saw on a Facebook page just this last week, Sam Rayburn has a non-electronics tournament going on right now. There's other lakes starting to get on that. And there's nothing wrong with that. No. Like, absolutely nothing. I would fish one. I would take my graphs off the boat and do something like that. Because it does add a different it's a different format, basically. Yeah. It really is.
Different challenge.
But is it unreasonable for most of your I'm just going to say average, and by average I don't mean $80,000 boat people. It's really not practical. That's a lot of money. I mean, what, $4,000 or $5,000 for the newer setups?
I think not quite that much.
Well, I mean, I think I priced recently the Humminbird Live Target, and I think graph, transducer, everything out there was close to $5,000.
I think you can get into an entry level live scope for probably $2,500.
But that's still a lot of money.
You can do it less than that.
That's
Bass Pro had a sale recently that the old LV32 that we have for $900, and you could buy the graph on sale, the 9-inch graph, which is what I have. I don't have the big 12-inch screen. You could catch it on sale for $600. So you're $1,500-$1,600 bucks.
But for some people, that's two mortgages.
But I know, but you're talking about competitive fishing.
There's also some people that will argue that it's too much money, but they'll have a $15,000 side by side. And if you have a $15,000 side by side, you go down to a $10,000 side by side and buy live.
Well, you got to remember the question said the question specifically says competitive fishing. So with that being said, competitive fishing in itself is expensive.
That's what
you're saying. Yeah. You're right.
You're talking about competitive fishing. So if you have competitive fishing, is tournaments all over, bass, crappie, whatever you want it to be. Those guys all have massive boats that cost ungodly amount of money. And most of your competitive tournaments, I'm not talking about professionals. The average is Bob and Tom, all of us sitting right here, work and pay your boat note. Well, if you can afford the boat,
right,
more likely you've already got.
Well, that's to be true.
So would it be fair to say that the industry in general, with the cost of everything, could be pricing out the blue collar worker, boats, everything, not just forward-facing sonar?
That ain't just boats. I mean, the vehicles are more expensive. Gas is more expensive.
Would you agree with that, Ben?
Sonar. I spaced out.
The industry in general and the cost of everything, boat, fuel, I mean, that would probably play more a part than just the forward-facing sonar and pricing out.
Well, it is. That's what I'm trying to say. Is all that is very expensive, and to say let me add $2,000-$3,000 to that. I mean, that's a pretty big step.
But it's really not, because you think back to. So I started doing some digging into when fish finders first came on the market. Any type of sonar, right? 1957, Lowrance introduced the first consumer available fish finder. It was called the Locator. I think it was like $125 in 1957 or something like that. $125.
Okay.
So you think about inflation from 1957 to 2023, it's about $1,300.
Okay, so it's not too far off.
You're not too far off. It'll get you pretty darn close to the $1,500 that Cutter was saying he saw a live scope set up at.
Well, my wife needs to understand that because we're going to talk.
So I think it's all about priorities, and it's like John was saying. The question was geared toward blue collar workers. You could even say middle class people. These guys have got side by sides. They've got tractors. Chances are they're rolling up in a jacked up 3/4 ton loaded out pickup, right? Don't have a jacked up truck that buys you your live scope. Don't have a $15,000 side by side. Don't have a tractor you're going to use 3 months out of the year, John.
But I've also got forward-facing sonar.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying.
No, it's all relative to how you spend your money.
Well, it's about priorities. You can't gripe and argue that you can't afford it.
Right.
When you look at all this other crap that you do have.
Yeah.
With that being said, though, and I'm not talking about the bigger tournament trails, but there's local Thursday night, Tuesday night shootouts where these older guys come pulling up the boat ramp in a 1995 F-150 with their old John boat that know how to fish.
Exactly.
That are going to be at a disadvantage because they might be retired. They just. They have a 20, 25-year-old boat, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they're, as a whole, what they can afford is what they can afford. Some of those guys that are really good at fishing are going to be at a disadvantage to those that are going out there and picking them off brush piles. So there is that.
Well, if they're really good at fishing.
Well, you can be really good at fishing and still be at a disadvantage to forward-facing sonar. I mean, that's how much it's changed the sport.
All right.
So, that all on that? Okay. Ben, I gave you some advice a couple episodes back.
Yep.
Have you been catching any more fish since I gave you the advice on grabbing a snack?
Well, I'm going to tell you. So last week, went to the lake. We did pretty well that morning. And I said, you know what? Cutter's never led me down a road that I didn't need to go down. I said, let's go to the marina and get a hamburger, and let's go hit a couple more spots. We went to the marina. We got a hamburger. Oh, you and you and Lucas showed up over there. So it's a true story. And we went back out and caught 0 fish. So,
but you felt better. You got some lunch.
I wasn't as hungry. Yeah.
I mean, my deal was you're not catching fish, or my deal was I was knocking you about not catching fish and going hungry.
Right.
So now you decided to eat and still not catch fish. So that's better for you. You feel better. You got your snack.
Yeah,
all I'm
instead of
saying
just not catching fish and starving, you're just not catching fish.
That's
not
right. You're
fish,
not yourself when you're hungry.
Yeah.
Snickers.
Well, but when I was hungry, I was catching fish.
Oh.
That's funny. Okay.
Yeah, I was catching fish while I was hungry, and I said, let's eat. Maybe it'll get better. Got nothing.
Got nothing. Well,
Who was with you?
A friend of mine named Dave.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't this Dave.
Common name.
Yeah.
well, better luck next time, buddy.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
All right. Let's take a quick break.
Well, the weather's warming up and the fish are moving up. Fishing around boat docks, boat houses, things of that sort are getting much more common, which means interactions between anglers and homeowners are going to potentially heat up, but maybe not heat up. John told me about an encounter that Cutter had with a homeowner. Was this last year? Year before last?
It's been 2 years ago.
Yeah. So that could definitely play a factor. How you gonna, what happened on that deal?
Yeah,
I think you told me about it.
Yeah, probably have. It was spring. It was late spring. Anyhow, we was fishing the dock, me and a buddy of mine, and saw some fish under there. So we was fishing, started catching some fish, and this is a big dock, and this got 2 boats on one side and another boat on the end and on a lift.
Oh, Jolly Whopper.
It's a big dock. Anyhow, and so we started catching some fish, and caught some pretty good fish off that dock. Then the homeowner comes out, and he's an older man, probably in his 80s. This is he retired, and he come out there and said, so what are y'all doing? I said, we're fishing. And he said, well, I like to fish here too. So the end where we was fishing at had a boat lifted up, a flat bottom boat lifted up on a lift. So he starts lowering it down to the water. I said, what are you doing? He says, I like to fish here too. I don't want y'all fishing here. I said, well, you don't own the lake. He said, yeah, but I own this boat dock. I don't want you fishing there. So he lowered that boat all the way down to the water where we couldn't fish there, that particular spot anymore. So that pretty much ruined that deal right there. It is dock. It's not worth standing there arguing with a homeowner about that. And about the time, this is a big 2-story house. I mean, it's, $2 million home, whatever it is. And this man's wife is up on the 2nd floor balcony screaming at us, "You are being rude. Y'all are rude for fishing here. You need to leave."
Wow.
He's out at the boat dock. We're 15 feet away talking to him, but she's 80 yards away screaming from the 2nd floor of the house. So, he said, "I don't want you fishing here. I like to fish here too." And so we just had to move on that particular day. But that's the personal encounter I've had.
Well, the best way this is the way I would handle it. I'm just gonna this is what you need to take into consideration. Anytime that happens, and this goes for everybody and our listeners too. Take your clothes off. Go down to your underwear and wear nothing and stand there for hours on end casting, facing them.
Facing them?
Yeah. Straight ahead. Wow. I don't care if you don't get a bite for 4 hours. Get down to nothing but your underwear, bare feet, and just stand there and fish. And the skimpier your underwear are, the better off you'll be.
Are you speaking from experience? Like, you've done this, or?
Well, that's the way I fight. Anytime I get in a fight, that's the first thing I do is start taking off my clothes because nobody wants to fight a naked man, you know? I mean, that's the first thing I back off.
As you know that from experience.
I've been in a few shirtless fights back in the day, and that's it. But I'm telling you, that's one time you mess with that sweaty guy.
And I know at least one time he lost his shirt, didn't know how. But
when?
Love and War, Lindell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I mean that can definitely happen this time of year. Any time of year you're fishing docks. I mean, homeowners are going to be. We've had pleasant experiences
I've had
with people.
nothing but pleasant. I mean, there's a lot of good ones out there.
But you're right. And I've had some good experiences too. I've met a lot of friends doing that. I had one guy in the same neighborhood where this happened at. I was catching some fish on his dock, and he'd been watching me from his house. Well, he walked out there and he said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Fine." I introduced myself and talked to him. He said, "Do you mind if I sit in here and watch you fish?" I said, "It's your dock. You can sit here all day."
Did he bring a notebook and start
He
taking?
did not bring it up. He offered me coffee and asked me, "Did I need anything to drink or whatever?" We sat there and visited for 30 or 45 minutes that day.
He was not your student of that day.
He was not my student that day.
He missed an opportunity.
Yeah, and this particular man does not even fish.
Really?
He said they moved here from somewhere else, bought the house, and retired, whatever. And he said, "I don't fish." I said, "You want some fish to eat?" "No, I don't even want fish to eat. I'll give him some."
We ran into a
There's a lot of
guy.
good people out there.
It is a lot of good people, but there are some spoilers out there that will make it just trying to ruin your day.
Yeah, we ran into a guy back in the fall on Palestine, and we were catching crappie off of his dock. And same thing, he walks out. Y'all have a good day. You know, how's the size of the fish you're catching, everything like that. He tells us he's got trees planted around the dock. I've got brush piles right out there. I mean, he didn't tell us where they were, but at least he tells us, "Hey, I got stuff here to catch fish," and he didn't try to run us off. So, I mean, those are the winners that you run into for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's stay on this subject for the cutting edge, okay? Give us some advice on how to handle a homeowner who is being contrary or who's giving you problems. What are some things you could do to handle that situation?
Well, this all tie back to that same event right there because I ended up calling the game warden about this guy. And for people that don't know, that is illegal. It's called fisherman harassment. If you're fishing, they cannot come out there and try and hamper your ability to fish.
Same for hunting.
Same for hunting. It's the same rule. But you have to show proof that they're doing it. It can't be my word against yours. So the game warden said, I need evidence that it's happening.
Video
evidence showing the confrontations happening, whatever. The man's coming out there doing what I said he did. But you have to have that, and they will go back if you show sufficient evidence that they're in the wrong. They will go back to that homeowner, and they will receive a citation for it. Right. It is against the law. And but it's just, the game warden says, one of them did tell me, he said, there are a lot of docks, go fish somewhere else. I said, well, that's true too, but I want to fish right here. And the state says I can, then I can. So
you paid for your fishing license. You should be able to fish.
Fishing license, and you can build the biggest dock you want, and you can put boards to the water. Then I can't fish it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if I can fish it, that's my right. That's your right. That's anybody's right to do it. And everybody has different opinions on that. Fishing people's docks, but like I say, there's a lot of nice people that doesn't care. I've given fish to homeowners fishing their dock, and several times, but like I say, he was just the bad apple of the bunch, I guess. And to this day, that guy's since then moved off. He doesn't live there anymore, so I don't have to worry about.
Won't be a problem this year.
But it's just a touchy. It just ruins your day if you go out there and you try and fish, and homeowners come out there and acting like that, thinking that they own the water that you're fishing in. And they don't. They don't know the rule and whatever. So
I guess the best thing you could do is just move on and don't let it ruin your day.
Yeah. If you know there's a particular dock, in my opinion, so it stopped me from fishing that dock. Is what it did. I quit going back over there because I just don't want to go over there. And of course, he's not out in the yard, but you never know who's in the house watching. So you start fishing. Next thing you know, he's running out there, starting trouble again. So I just quit fishing that dock, and I went by in that area this past summer, and I rode around. I noticed all the boats were gone that were there, and I said,
Catching fish.
Not that I didn't catch no fish that day.
Imagine that.
But there's a different lady out in the yard, so I knew, and it wasn't his wife, so I knew, he didn't live there anymore. So
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, if you want to keep pushing it, I guess you gotta show proof and give it to the game warden and tell them where it is, and they'll handle it. But it's hard to fish and video. I don't have all the GoPro stuff. So if you had GoPro set up on your boat, it'd be fine because it'd be running and catch everything. But it's hard to fish and hold a phone and all that. So I just moved on and kept going. So anyhow, that's all I can say about that.
Okay. All right, let's take a quick break. All right, folks, it's time to move into a segment we like to do every episode called Most Likely To. This one, I already know who the winner's going to be on this one. Most likely to take off with their power poles down. And to expand on that, most likely to try to get on plane in one of the most stumpiest parts of the lake.
Guilty. In a snowstorm.
Yeah. So me and John were fishing. I think it was like back in January of last year.
Yeah.
Something like that. And this was like one of them out of nowhere. It went from sunshine to snowing.
Yeah.
Like in
Quick.
like 2 or 3 hours. And we were fishing on Flat Creek and we were trying to beat some riprap. And we finally decided we had had enough of the sleet and the snow and 20 degrees. So we were headed in. And we all buckle in and start taking off across Flat Creek. And we're like, man, what's going on? We couldn't get it over 50 mile an hour. We couldn't get the boat on plane. Like, what in the world? Power poles are still down.
Dragging back in the back.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
you on that one.
Have you ever done that?
Last weekend, actually. Yeah, I didn't have them all the way in the water, just a little bit. I just had a good slapping noise going on at about 65.
Yeah.
God,
Do you have one or two?
Two.
Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Cutter?
Not me. I
He don't have power poles.
Oh, you don't have
afford-
power poles on
I
your
can't
boat.
afford power poles on my boat.
Oh, here we
He,
go.
he keeps asking for them for Christmas.
Yeah,
You know, you can give up.
bring them.
You can give up that live scope and get your power pole.
I'm good.
I'm good. I'm good.
I'm
I'm good.
I'm good.
I feel you.
I'm good. I'm good. But I feel something in the future.
There you go.
I do.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
on
be
that.
sure-
Maybe on that new longer boat.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
and what's crazy about that is that, so John has the Minn Kota Raptors, and they're supposed to have like the fancy technology to where you can't run off
with them down.
with them down. They have some kind of thing where if they feel resistance, they automatically pull up. And
But
that
they
day
didn't.
they did not.
Right.
Well, I don't know if they. I don't know if they're supposed to do that. I know if they feel it slipping, they dig down further.
Right.
But I don't know if they had. I don't think there's any automatic thing that
I thought they
throws them
did.
off. Now there's like a breakaway thing on there to where it doesn't break or hurt the pole if you do.
It wouldn't
take
make
off.
much sense for them to release under pressure because if you were in a heavy wind every time they got
Right.
behind, they
Yeah.
would
I
raise
don't.
up.
I don't.
Well,
I don't think
there's a difference in 20 mile an hour wind and 250
Yeah,
horse
that's
Yamaha.
true. That's true.
But the active anchoring or whatever they call it is if it's slipping, it digs down further. You can
Yeah.
actually feel it.
Now, that's something you need to keep in mind for a power pole solution. The original power pole is still available at most Walmarts, and that's called an anchor. So just know that you do have a cheaper
I have
option.
one of those. I do have that.
Okay.
But that won't keep you.
And real quick, just because you brought that up, just because you brought that up,
I didn't
just
mean to.
because you
I
brought
didn't
that
mean to.
up. So we were fishing a little friend tournament on Lake Tyler. I think it was the first one we did.
It was.
And he was fishing with a guy that we worked with, and he said, "I've got a game changer." He calls me the night before. I've got a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking, okay, what bait? What bait you pick up? Fill me in. What? No, y'all see tomorrow. It's a game changer. So we get to the boat ramp, and I ask him what it is. And he pulls up this. He sets it because he didn't have power poles on his boat.
Not that boat, yeah.
He sets this anchor out on the deck.
Oh, this is the Nitro.
And so
Yeah.
they were out
Won't it burn
fishing,
up?
and he would tell the other guy, power pole down, and the guy would lower the anchor into the water and sit there.
Well, we had some flooded grass. It was really we expected to catch more fish out of.
Yeah. Yeah. Expected.
Do
Yeah.
what you got to do.
Yeah, we didn't.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
All right. So most likely it's a bird's nest and get stuck in a tree at the same time.
That's not going to be me. I don't think I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
do that. Now I will mess up from time to time. I mean, I think everybody does. You make a bad cast, every once in a while. Don't sit there and say you don't make a bad.
It's not gonna be me. I don't use bait cast reels, so it's not gonna be
Right.
me.
Right.
Even when
You-
I
you
fish
wouldn't-
tournaments, I don't do that. So I don't.
Right, but
Yeah.
you
You
do
keep-
make bad casts.
Yeah,
I've seen-
What,
I've seen-
but bird nest.
Yeah,
That's
no,
only with
yeah.
a bait cast.
Right.
and
That's
reel,
true.
pretty much.
The bird nest takes you out. Yeah.
Yeah, he uses the women's rods. There's no way that you
That's
can
fine.
wrap
That's
those.
fine.
That's
gives him
fine.
that gives him a free
What's wrong with
pass.
the spinning reel?
Yeah.
I'm not worried about him.
Are you not worried about him?
No.
I have done it several times on Lake Athens. And I like to fish wacky rigs and flukes, that kind of stuff, like real finesse stuff with the spinning reel. I don't know why. I just prefer it.
Yeah.
And John says to fish them backwards because I put the reel on the right-hand side, and he likes to reel left-handed. But
Hey, we agree on that. I actually do flip them too.
I do too. I flip all mine.
I know. Technically,
I know
it is
several
supposed to be
people.
if you're right-handed, it's supposed to be on the left, but I flip mine too.
I flip mine to the left.
What do you mean technically? I've never heard that.
I go left. I reel left.
I don't understand
on
that.
On a spinning reel.
Because
On
on
a right-handed spinning reel, it's supposed to be on the left.
well, then why is it on the right side for a bait caster?
I don't know.
Right, it doesn't make
Bam.
sense.
Well, because I think
I don't know.
because I think the general consensus is that when you're fishing a spinning reel, it's mostly used for some sort of finesse fishing, and you're going to use your good arm for that.
Well, I'm
You're just-
right-handed.
I mean, 'cause I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah,
I can't sit here and do this with my left hand all day long.
Ah, come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
So you flip.
It's
you,
the same.
You flip it around to the left side.
I don't have none of them women's rods, but I'm saying
You don't have a spinning reel?
I do have one. It's I got for Stacy, and I don't I don't keep it in my boat.
Golly.
That's fine.
No, you're anti-spinning reel. That's not fine.
I know. I like them for stuff like that. But this particular day, I was fishing with John, and I didn't bring a spinning reel with me, and we were fishing nothing but wacky rig. And boy, I had some bad mono in there that had some memory developed, and every time I would try to fling that little lightweight wacky rig up in there, that thing would just go to crap, and I'm stuck up in the top of the tree. And
now, to be fair, the last Sealy tournament we did at Lake Fork, I rafted one up bird nested so bad. And this is where we're at now. This is March. This was back in September. I finally got around to trying to cut it out. I spent 45 minutes trying to cut it out last weekend before I went fishing.
Yeah.
It was a nasty one. So it does happen.
So Cutter doesn't fish man reels. Ben doesn't fish women reels. So, okay.
Right. That's okay.
And John never bird's nest or never gets stuck in a tree.
That's
so.
false. I just said I make some bad casts. I don't do a lot of bird's nesting, really. I mean, I take that back. If I'm trying to skip up under a dock, I'll bird's nest it.
Yeah.
Only when you're getting fancy.
Yeah, only when I'm trying to be fancy. Yeah. Yeah. I'll go with you on that.
Okay.
All right. So I'll take that one, I guess. So me and John will split that one 50-50.
All right. Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Tight Lines and Brow Times podcast.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube channel.
And if there's any questions you guys have for us, feel free to shoot us an email at tightlinesandbrowtines.tx.
One of the three of y'all's got to have a question.
Gmail. Yep. Again, that is tightlinesandbrowtines.tx@gmail.com.
Until next time, stay safe and stay outdoors.
Yes, sir.
All right.